Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Edge of Analytics. Today, we're talking to James McAuliffe. He's a cloud solution architect on ways executives can overcome challenges around data silos and analytics enablement using Microsoft Synapse. My name is Greg Pierce, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Cloud at CCG. CCG, in case you don't know us, we help organizations become more insight-driven. We solve complex challenges and accelerate growth through industry-specific cloud, data, and analytics solutions. That's what we eat and breathe every day. Welcome, James, and thank you for being here with us today.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Excellent. And do you mind if I call you JMac?
I would love for you to call me JMac. I'm used to it. That's what I go by. All right.
All right, JMac. So let's start off with the headline here. Microsoft recently released Azure Synapse Analytics, and most consider it to be an upgrade from SQL Data Warehouse. Can you give us an overview of what the tool does?
Well, sure. First thing, if the word upgrade is a little bit, I don't know if that's exactly the right word I would use more like evolved.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was announced last year at Ignite that SQL Data Warehouse had become Synapse. And so a lot of people were puzzled, like, why rename the same tool? And really, though, what we found was the purpose of the tool had evolved into more of a collaborative and more of a holistic way to work with your data from all the way from acquisition into visualization. And that's became even more true this year when at Build 2020, the Synapse Workspace was announced and that rolled out. And now we could see how we could work together collaboratively in teams doing all things. So what I find most compelling about it is all the way from connecting to data, acquiring data, shaping data, looking at data, monitoring what's going on with the data flows, all the way to visualization, all within a single pane of glass, all within a variety of skills and tooling supported all in one place. I believe those are the most compelling things about what Synapse has evolved into.
Well, that's fantastic. So it sounds like a tool that has great use. But if you think about it from an executive standpoint and more kind of non-technical or non-data literate, if you want to consume this data and use it to make decisions, tell me how an executive would leverage a platform like Synapse.
That's a great question. So non-technical and non-data literate are terms that are evolving because the standard for what a person should know in terms of how to work with data has changed over the last few years. Organizations are increasingly becoming more data literate, and organizations have evolved and are digitally transforming their data estate. And organizations that are successful at doing that generally see upwards of $100 million more to the bottom line as they're more successful at that. That said, a tool like this supports the entire organization. You'll see as we go forward that the ability to meet people where they are, I think, is one of the interesting and compelling aspects of Synapse as a tool. That all the way from acquiring data all the way to visualizing it, there's an entry point for many members of the organization. Now, if I'm an executive and I want to have a quick readout of what's going on in the day, I don't know that I'm going to jump into this tool. But the days of spending 2 weeks of compiling a bunch of spreadsheets together and creating a very customized report that comes from all those different sources and all the manual touches in order to just be able to answer a question to the organization, those days are gone. Those days are behind us. Organizations that are still operating like that are losing competitive edge in today's marketplace. So if I'm an executive, I want to know that if I need to ask a different question tomorrow than I'm asking today, that it won't take 2 weeks, 2 months, a month for me to get the answer out of my data. I'm interested in getting value out of my data. I'm not interested in having a lot of data. We will. You do. But what I'm interested in is the distance from the value to my insights, from the data, value, and insights. I want to get at it quicker if I'm an executive, and Synapse helps a lot in that regard.
Oh, that explains a lot. Thank you for that explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And if I think about it from a perspective of what was available within SQL Data Warehouse, how's Synapse different?
Yeah, so and we're getting back to that whole why did we just rename the product, right? Well, there's a lot more capability here, and it's different. It's not just SQL Data Warehouse. SQL Data Warehouse is in a compelling tool in its own set, but it's a massive parallel processing engine which has a relational store and serves and is designed to serve petabytes of data and data warehouse workloads. Synapse Analytics surrounding that now brings together data lake capabilities, now brings together virtualization capabilities like connecting to NoSQL engines, connecting to the data lake seamlessly, serverless architectures, the ability to have collaborative notebooks and have folks working together, the ability to see a single pane of glass, instantiate jobs, orchestrate jobs, see the logging, monitor those all in one place. I think that's compelling, and I think that's very different than having I'm going to say just a relational store that has the ability to serve up petabytes of data. You still have that, but you have around that a host of other technologies and architectures and interfaces that empower that and make it more powerful together.
So one of the things that you brought up to me and JMac is the idea of data visualization within the tool. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested to understand how teams might be able to leverage this, given that many of them are working in data silos.
Yeah, it's a great point. So when we think of visualization, we typically think of that as a reporting tool or as an endpoint, like I'm going to do all this work below the waterline, and finally, if the gods are with us, finally we'll have some sort of visualization that shows me the insight, that prescient insight that I'm after. But in Synapse, you'll find that you can, for instance, there's a capability inside it called SQL on Demand, which is a serverless architecture. You can right-click on a data lake folder and extract all the data from that and immediately just say, I want to see this in a chart. And so right there, just from the ability to go from, I want to point at this folder in my data lake, I don't know what's in there, and I want to pull that data in, and I want to see it in a chart, and I want to see, ratios and domains and expressions of values in a way that's visual. I don't think those capabilities can be understated, how important it is to be able to have visibility into your data immediately and to have it as a visualization tool as opposed to just, petabytes of data in a huge, big, table, tabular format. So that's even when you're working with the tool, and even when you're acquiring, connecting to data, you can say, what does it look like? What could it look like? And then within Synapse, you also have Power BI authoring and publishing capabilities. So if you're familiar with that tool, and now you're bringing your visualization team into the same ecosystem as the folks who are working with the data, and you're removing that distance between data engineers, data scientists, and data visualization teams, you're removing that distance and you're putting that all together in one place. And the boundaries are, I wouldn't say blurred, but the capabilities of folks to cross work with each other are much more powerfully implemented in Synapse because you have not just charting capabilities within the data acquisition tool sets, but you also have the ability to author and publish professional visualizations in Power BI. So it really supports that mode 2, mode 1 type of I don't know what's in my data. I want to explore it. Okay, now I know more about what's in it. Now I want to visualize it in a more creative way. And now I want to pass that on to the visualization professionals to begin to prepare it for the organization. All that can happen within Synapse.
So that's a lot.
It was a lot.
For sure. And it got me thinking about some of our customers who have spent years modernizing their platforms and getting skills up to date as they've moved workloads into data warehouse solutions within Azure. Do they have to throw that all away? Is this like a completely new skill set, or or is it something that ports over?
So that's that's a great question. It's a question we hear all the time from our customers because we're not going into static environments. We're going into environments where initiatives are already underway, where people are already spending money on initiatives, and they're like, "Wait, should I stop spending money on this? I've already got a year invested in this thing. I'm almost to the end of it, and now you're telling me I have to change tooling, in the middle of that. I don't want to do that." So what I like about Synapse and in general, Microsoft tools are super collaborative, and this idea of democratization and the ability to support people where they are. So within Synapse, you have the ability to work in SQL. So if you have folks that know how to use SQL, and typically in most organizations, a lot of data engineers know how to work with SQL, but maybe somebody doesn't know how to work with PySpark, or maybe so you have data scientists and they say, I don't use SQL. That's not a tool that I am comfortable with, or that gives me the answers I need. So within that, we have PySpark, we have Spark, Scala, we even have .NET Spark, which is unique to Synapse and supports, if you have a big ecosystem of .NET folks who know how to work with that language, now you have a version of Spark that's that supports a .NET developer. Spark SQL and Python, just a ton of different languages are supported all in one place.
You brought up some of the integrations within Synapse, but I'm thinking many customers that I know of have invested pretty heavily in Power BI. Is that something that can work together with Synapse as well?
Yes, it sure is. There's a couple of things I can talk about there in terms of, I already mentioned the ability to author and publish into a Power BI service. So authoring locally is supported. So working within Power BI locally is supported, and working with even the data movement technologies within Power BI is still in there. And then the ability to publish to a Power BI workspace is supported, which is very interesting. So without having to jump around between tool sets, you can acquire data from this whole virtualization and blended source ecosystem of just about everything, and bring it forward and connect to it with Power BI within the Synapse workspace. Look at your data, work with it, author a report, and then publish it.
Given that this new technology is out there and it's so powerful, if we have people that are listening today that are getting ready to go all in on BI and launch a BI initiative, should they pause and evaluate Synapse?
Yes and no. They shouldn't pause because you don't have to. Yes, you should evaluate Synapse. And the reason you want to do that is, and I think we just kind of mentioned this before when you talked about, should I suspend my initiative? I'm spending all this money on this initiative I have underway. Now here's this new tool set. And so the extension of that is, do I need to stop? Like, no. And we talked about this, all the different capabilities of Synapse and the ability to have a collaborative environment that reaches out and has linked services to all kinds of data stores, gives you the ability to inject it into your ecosystem. So it's not really it's more like an and type of a conversation. I can have all these things and add Synapse into the mix and make the whole much more powerful.
The acceleration of technology in cloud has come to a point where Microsoft comes out with somewhere near 700 new technologies in Azure every year, and they're coming about 4 or 5 times faster than they used to from an upgrade cycle perspective. So it's never a good time to pause. We should always be leveraging what we have and then grabbing or gravitating towards the new technology. If you had one thing you want executives to take away from this video, what would it be?
Just one.
Just one.
Getting value out of your data.
All right.
Yeah, and I think you said just one, so I'm going to stop there. But I got one more little line I could give you.
Go ahead.
The second value proposition, I think, really is the support. I think this tooling looks more to me when we talk about the modern data estate and what's happened in our business and how we run our businesses today and organizational data literacy. I think this tool looks like it really is targeted to support the modern data estate and really works well to support modern data literate organizations, to give them, again, that speed to value.
Awesome. Well, this has been very informative. And J-Mac, I'd like to thank you for your time today and thank our viewers for stopping in to take a look. I know you are super passionate about this technology and you love to talk about it. So again, thank you. And for the viewers, if you'd like to connect with me or James to explore a custom use case or just to talk more about the technology, our contact information will be below, and we'll see you on the next one.